Good morning, and thank you for joining us here for this presentation. As part of our final benchmark project, I will be presenting a strategic HR proposal centered on optimizing human capital within our healthcare organization. Throughout this course, we have explored the multifaceted role HR plays beyond transactional functions. Especially in healthcare, HR is not just about hiring or compliance, it's a strategic business partner. It ensures that we are not only attract and retain high-performing clinicians, but also create an environment where employees can thrive legally and ethically. Our current system faces serious challenges, as you know, including staffing shortages, burnout, retention failures, layoffs. The goal of this presentation is to propose actionable, sustainable, and legally sound strategies that will help us acquire, develop, and leverage human capital to meet the evolving demands of patient care. So let us begin by examining how we currently approach these areas and where improvements can be made. Currently, our human capital strategy shows several structural weaknesses. Hiring remains largely reactive, driven by staffing shortages rather than proactive planning. Even with advanced planning, it seems the staffing issue is driven primarily by the organization's financial benchmarks, like hiring freezes, layoffs. They are very economically driven. This leads to onboarding gaps and rushed integrations. We also lack formalized development pathways. Most nurses and staff onboard via informal shadowing, and there is minimal investment in long-term growth, such as clinical ladder programs or mentorship. Training is not standardized and varies by department. There's limited use of AI or analytics to identify training needs or monitor progress. Cross-training opportunities are minimal, leading to role rigidity. Finally, we are not fully leveraging the strength of our workforce. Many staff possess diverse certifications, language fluency, or specialty skills that go untapped due to outdated role expectations. And I'll use that word a lot, outdated, but really all of it is becoming very much outdated every day. The current model limits upward mobility and leads to burnout and attrition. In the next section, we'll look at how we can pivot to a more strategic and intentional system to develop our workforce. To improve performance outcomes, we must first map our employees' strengths accurately. This includes clinical certifications, language proficiency, and cultural background, traits that are invaluable in diverse patient populations. Artificial intelligence and EHR integrated analytics can help us identify which staff members are best suited to certain cases or shifts, optimizing both clinical care and staff satisfaction. For instance, matching a bilingual nurse to a patient with limited English proficiency improves patient trust and health literacy. Diversity must also be seen as a performance enhancer. Teams with varied perspectives are more innovative and adaptable, and I'm not even talking about diversity here in terms of demographic. It really is about thought. In a healthcare setting, this can mean better problem solving and culturally competent care. Strategically rotating staff through different departments or patient types reduces monotony, spreads institutional knowledge, and mitigates burnout. All of these practices ultimately improve patient outcomes and job satisfaction. In the next slide, we'll explore specific HR roles that can support these strategies and ensure consistent execution aligned with our core values. Integrating the right HR roles into the organization is vital to drive our vision forward. A strong HR generalist provides frontline support, handling grievances, policy questions, and employee engagement. They serve as the ethical compass in everyday operations. An HR consultant brings a strategic lens. They evaluate how people, systems, and processes affect organizational performances. I will say a few things about the consultancy right now. It is kind of being phased out by AI metrics, but eventually we will need AI consultants, people who have expertise in not just leveraging technology, but also human, right? We will not replacing humans with AI. We will need people experts, human experts. So not just consultants, but it will be more of an integrated role. So moving on, that was, sorry, a tangent. So they work connects data with action, helping us pivot where we see burnout, attrition, or low morale. In smaller healthcare systems, the HR of one model is essential. This role combines operational expertise with strategic oversight, enabling lean teams to manage all facets of HR with flexibility. And when I say lean teams, I don't mean lean as in management. I mean that they are small, like startups, like my organization. Across all models, incorporating a Christian worldview reinforces fairness, dignity, and talent stewardship. Of course, if you are not a Christian, you may use your own ethno-religious view, but for the purpose of this class, we're using Christian worldview. Servant leadership derived from Christian ethics can shape a workplace that values empathy, purpose, and mutual respect. Promoting a culture grounded in intrinsic human worth aligns well with modern DEI values and retention goals. Again, DEI is not being used here as a scapegoat or a cuss word. We mean DEI in terms of diversity across pretty much all of humanity. Next, we will present our key recommendations for aligning human capital investments with legal and operational needs. Our recommendations for leadership are focused on aligning human capital with both compliance obligations and operational performance. So, what do I mean by that? It's just too many words. First, skill-based hiring can help close gaps faster than relying solely on degrees and titles. And we're seeing that right now. I think we've become over-credentialed. We have people who just never leave school only because they just can't find a job, and they have titles and the sentences of titles after their name, but no real world experience. It's a problem. So it ensures that competency. So we need someone who is competent, not just credentialed, drive hiring decisions. So second, digitizing onboarding through learning management systems ensures consistency, scalability, and fast integration of new staff, especially in high turnover environments. And third, investing in AI-enabled tools for workforce planning and documentation streamlines staffing, reduces burnout, and ensures fair workload distribution. So these tools also help maintain legal documentation under employment law. I'm going to talk about the Supreme Court decisions in law very briefly here. It's important to review existing policies to ensure they are legally sound, because there's a lot of laws have been passed that overturned decades standing, sort of like affirmative action is one of them, and then we've had the Chevron doctrines. These are really essential landmark rulings that overhaul the entire workplace. They're just the way we think we know how to do something, but that's not really true anymore. So finally, leadership must protect their top performing clinicians. Contract guarantees, bonus tracks, flexible scheduling. These are not luxuries. These are operational necessities in today's volatile labor market. These are no longer perks. These are the necessary benefits. In the next slide, we'll discuss how these strategies translate into actionable development goals for HR professionals. We're just going to talk about how I approach HR at work. Well, in my own startup, I recognize that our work is never static, right? So it always changes. The field evolves with the law, with technology, with culture. So my first priority is to deepen my fluency in employment law. I think it's very important, especially as rulings like AA and federal directives reshape policy boundaries. HR is also undergoing tech revolution. I'm sure everyone's noticed. Tools for AI-assisted recruitment, ATS, Workday, predictive analytics, ethical audits. I don't know what that means, but it's been mentioned in the textbook. Will soon be the norm. I aim to integrate these tools thoughtfully and proactively. Personal development also means self-awareness. Regular feedback from colleagues, supervisors, and even subordinates ensures that I continue to grow as a reflective practitioner. And how many of us actually want to know what our subordinates truly think? Above all, I commit to leading with empathy, integrity, and cultural fluency, balancing legal compliance with human dignity. Of course, if I have to prioritize the law, then that law wins. I fought the law and law won. But everything else, we can negotiate. To truly leverage human capital, we must go beyond generic job descriptions and uncover the unique strengths with each employee, what each employee brings. Tools like Gallup's Clifton Strengths or even simple peer feedback loops can help identify latent skills that are otherwise overlooked. I'm sure we all have those, and we wish we could, kind of utilize them at work, but in a unionized environment, sometimes it's not always possible because it's somebody else's job. Cross-functional collaboration breaks down silos and reveal unexpected strength, like a nurse who's also great at data analysis or a technician with exceptional mentorship instincts. We should also design roles that adapt to employees' capabilities instead of forcing rigid expectations. Flexibility allows us to keep high performers engaged while improving retention. When individual strengths are aligned with team outcomes, both the employee and the organization benefit. This also reinforces inclusive work environments where diversity isn't performative, it's practical and productive. By recognizing and celebrating the value of unique perspectives, we strengthen performance, morale, and institutional loyalty. It's whatever's left of it anyway. So because GCU is a Christian college, we do have a Christian worldview, so I'll just speak to that a little bit. Although I do not personally identify as a Christian, I recognize its emphasis on compassion, fairness, and integrity as values shared across many moral and philosophical traditions. In my startup, we won't have a formal HR department, but my HR principles will guide this approach. We will embed values like respect, equity, and inclusion into our early workflows through clear communication, feedback loops, and fair workload distribution. Tools like AI will help us automate some of these principles, ensuring that documentation, accountability, and task management are handled transparently. The goal is to build a workplace culture that honors human capital, not because of religious obligation, but because it's the right thing to do. So this FS allows us to promote dignity and trust regardless of organizational size or religious affiliation. So throughout this course, we've learned that HR is not just a bureaucratic function. It is, but it's a little more than that. It's a strategic tool if done correctly. It can shape performance, equity, and culture, especially in lean or startup environments like my organization. So moving forward, the short-term goal is to build performance dashboard that aligns task complexity with documentation quality and patient outcomes. I will use AI tools to track chart completion time, safety alerts, and workflow bottlenecks. In the long term, I hope to evolve the system into a scalable framework that supports equitable, high-performing teams. This course also has reinforced the importance of legal compliance, which will uphold by staying current on employment laws, policies, and ethical governance. So to conclude, this course has shown that regardless of organizational size, human capital must be treated as a strategic asset, human asset, but strategically. Even in lean startups without dedicated HR personnel, the core principle, transparency, equity, performance alignment, and legal compliance still apply. Technology, especially artificial intelligence, allows us to scale these principles. From performance dashboards to compliance checks, the right tools can embed accountability and fairness into the workflow without requiring layers of bureaucracy. My final recommendation to leadership is this: embed HR values early. Do not wait until problems emerge. Use tools, policies, and daily practices to reinforce a culture where people know they are valued, evaluated fairly, and protected under the law. These early investments pay off in productivity, retention, and trust. So in the last slide, I'll talk about who influenced this course for me. I drew on both scholarly literature and current events to anchor my analysis. So while we use Dressler as a foundational textbook, I've used also research-based contributions from Chen, Yamamoto, Yamamoto's emphasis on incentive alignment, Kozlowski pandemic-era family leave. Equally important were evolving legal frameworks, especially with the Supreme Court of the United States of America decisions ending race-based affirmative action and recent shifts in DEI discourse. I've integrated all of these, not just legal facts, but as context shaping HR practices today. So lastly, real-world insight from my own experience, both as an employee and an emerging leader, ensured my recommendations were grounded in operational reality. So it's not just theory alone. So So I conclude my presentation with the words of the famous hotelier J.W. Marriott. The greatest asset of a company is its people. So with that, thank you for listening.